Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Story Point. So the today's story is most scariest and creepy story. So let's see what happened in the end. Read it with me completely. So the today's story is The Secret of the Dark Room, Part 1. The Old House. The old Mitchell house stood at the end of Elm Street, abandoned for years. Its windows were boarded up and weeds grew wild in the garden. When the Thompson family moved in, they hoped to fix it up and make it their new home. The house was large and old, but they liked its charm. On their first night, they unpacked and explored. The house was dusty and the air was musty. In the back of the house, they discovered a small door behind a bookshelf in the basement. It was locked with an old padlock and had a sign that read, "Keep out." Curiosity got the better of them, but they decided to wait until they had the right tools to open it. Part 2. The Unsettling Discoveries. Over the next few days, strange things began happening. Sarah, the mother, heard whispers in the night, but when she investigated, she found nothing. The children, Lily and Max, claimed to see shadows moving in the corners of their rooms. One evening, while searching for a missing key, Max found a hidden drawer in the attic. Inside were old photographs and letters. The photographs showed a family from long ago, but there was something odd about them. The people in the photos had blank, empty eyes. The letters were written by someone named Margaret Mitchell, who had lived in the house many years before. They spoke of fear and strange occurrences in the basement. Margaret mentioned a great dark room that should never be opened. Part 3. The Key to the Dark Room. Determined to uncover the truth, Mr. Thompson managed to find an old key that fit the padlock. With a deep breath, he unlocked the door and opened it. Behind the door was a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. The air that came up was cold and damp. Using a flashlight, the Thompsons descended into the basement. The dark room was small and cluttered with old furniture covered in sheets. In the center of the room was an old wooden chest. The room seemed to have an oppressive weight, and the shadows seemed to move on their own. Sarah opened the chest with trembling hands. Inside were old books, a large dusty mirror, and a journal. The journal belonged to Margaret Mitchell and was filled with disturbing entries about someone or something watching her from the shadows. Margaret wrote about a growing sense of dread and how the dark room seemed to be alive. Part 4. The Haunting Intensifies. That night, the house felt different. The temperature dropped, and a heavy silence fell over the rooms. The Thompsons could hear scratching noises from the dark room, and the shadows seemed to grow longer and more twisted. Lily and Max had nightmares about being trapped in the dark room. They saw faces in the mirror from the chest, their eyes hollow and sad. Sarah and Mr. Thompson tried to comfort them, but they couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The next day, the family noticed that the old photographs in the attic had changed. The faces now had expressions of terror, and some of the eyes seemed to follow them. In the mirror from the dark room, they saw fleeting images of ghostly figures, their faces distorted with fear. Part 5. The Final Revelation. One night, as the family gathered in the living room, the lights flickered and went out. In the darkness, they heard the scratching noise again, this time coming from the dark room. They decided to confront whatever was causing the disturbances. With flashlights in hand, they descended into the basement. The dark room was even colder than before. The mirror now showed a reflection of the room, but the reflection was different, old, decayed, and full of shadowy figures. As they approached the mirror, the air grew thick and the room seemed to close in on them. They saw the figures moving closer, their faces twisted in silent dreams. The mirror began to crack and a dark, swirling mist poured out of it. Suddenly, the mist formed into a dark, shadowy figure. It was Margaret Mitchell, her face twisted with agony. She reached out, her eyes empty and pleading. The house shook and the lights went out completely. In the pitch black, the Thompsons felt a cold hand grab them, pulling them towards the mirror. They heard whispering voices and felt their bodies being dragged. When the lights flickered back on, the dark room was empty and the mirror was shattered. The Thompsons never spoke of that night again. They left the house and it remained abandoned once more. The Mitchell house stood empty, its dark room sealed and its secrets buried. But some say if you listen closely into a foggy night, you can still hear whispers coming from the house, a reminder of the horrors that lurk within the shadows of the dark room. So thanks for watching.